A week before my sister's wedding, I got a notification. My card was charged $9,800 for her reception. When I asked, she said, "You don't have a spouse or kids, might as well make yourself useful." Her bridesmaids laughed. I smiled and replied, "Then I hope you find me useless, real soon." Turns out, I was the sole payment, and without me, there was no wedding. So, I cancelled everything. When they found out about it, what impressed me most was the audacity. I'd given them access to my account for one thing: food expenses. Not fancy meals or lobster tastings, just basic stuff. Snacks for planning meetings, takeout when they stayed up late gluing rhinestones to invitations, maybe some pizza when the bridal party came over. I told Lindsay she could use the card for that, just that. And even then, I put a spending cap on it. So, when I got a bank notification for $9,800 a week before the wedding, I thought there had to be a mistake. The transaction was labeled Reynolds Wedding Expenses, and it wasn't split into multiple charges. It was one massive payment, cleared in full. I sat there at my desk, half a sandwich in my hand, staring at my phone like maybe the number would correct itself. It didn't. I called her immediately. She answered like she was on a yacht, laughing, chatting, music in the background. I didn't ease into it. I told her the amount, asked what the hell she'd done. She actually sounded annoyed, said something like, "You don't have a husband or children, you can at least keep yourself busy." Then a chorus of giggles behind her, bridesmaids, probably holding champagne flutes with names etched in gold. They thought it was funny. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just said, "Then I hope you'll soon find out that I'm good for nothing," and hung up. That sentence hit differently when I said it. I didn't even plan it, it just came out, calm and cold. I opened my laptop and started pulling every receipt, every email, every contract I could find. Turns out, this wasn't just a one-off. Over the last 3 months, they had slowly rerouted almost every major wedding expense through me. The venue contract, signed by me. The photographer, my email. The caterer, billed directly to my card. I even found a payment to a horse rental company, a horse for some dramatic white horse entrance Lindsay wanted, paid with my money. No one asked me, not once. Apparently, Lindsay told the vendors I was overseeing the financials. That phrase again. She used it with confidence, like she had actual permission, but she didn't. I checked every line. They'd done it so carefully, I almost admired the planning, a little here, a little there, nothing too noticeable until the final blow. They all assumed I'd take it, that I'd swallow the hit, just like I always did. Quiet, responsible Henry. The one who gets the phone calls when dad's in the hospital but isn't invited to Thanksgiving. The one who doesn't argue, just shows up, pays up, shuts up. But something changed the second I saw that number. Not just because of the money, though that was bad enough, but because of how sure they were I wouldn't do anything. So, I decided I would, and not quietly. Over the next 2 days, I made a list, not just of the vendors, but of every agreement they made using my name. I wasn't trying to get revenge, not at first. I just wanted to understand how deep it went. But the deeper I looked, the clearer it became, I wasn't a helper. I wasn't supporting her. I was the wedding. Without me, there was no ceremony, no food, no band, no venue, no flowers. I had become the foundation of something no one even thought to thank me for. And now that I knew that, I wasn't going to let them get away with pretending I didn't matter. I started making calls. I started with the venue, mostly because it was the largest payment and the one I knew would cause the biggest ripple. The manager picked up immediately. She even greeted me by name. Apparently, I'd been such a pleasure to work with over email. That would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. Lindsay had been using my name for months and somehow pulled it off well enough that no one questioned it. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just explained what happened, that I hadn't authorized a single charge and that my sister had misused my financial information to book a wedding I didn't even want to attend. The manager paused, then asked me one question: "Were you the card holder on file?" I told her yes. She said, "Then you're within your rights to cancel. I'll initiate the process." Just like that. Apparently, there was a clause in the contract that allowed for partial refunds if the event was called off more than 72 hours in advance. We were right on the line. I got 60% back and requested all communications moving forward go through me, not Lindsay. Next up was the caterer, $5,400 for coastal fusion with locally sourced seafood, including vegan appetizers and signature cocktails named after the bride and groom. The head chef was pissed. He had just finished prepping the menu and had already turned down 2 other events for that date. I told him what I told the venue: my name, my card, my decision. He tried to talk me out of it, even offered to cut a deal. I didn't budge. I didn't owe anyone a compromise. Then came the photographer, who had flown in from Oregon. The florist, who was storing $3,000 worth of custom arrangements. The furniture rental company that had delivered vintage couches for the reception lounge. And even the horse guy. Yes, there was a horse involved for a fairy tale moment Lindsay planned to post in real time on Instagram. Each cancellation was like pulling out a beam from a structure they thought was unshakable. And every time I heard, "But Lindsay said," or "She told us," I shut it down with the same sentence: "She never had my permission." Over the course of 2 days, I unraveled the entire wedding. By the time I was done, I had nearly $18,000 back in my account. Some payments were forfeited, no getting those back, but I didn't care. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the fact that they built this whole thing on the assumption that I wouldn't fight back. 3 days before the wedding, Lindsay called me for the first time in weeks. She wasn't laughing. She wasn't even angry, not yet. She sounded like someone who had just realized the walls weren't as solid as they thought. She said the venue had contacted her, that the florist said the delivery was cancelled, and that the DJ posted online about being available that Saturday. Our Saturday? She asked. What's going on? I told her the truth, that I had cancelled everything. That every contract with my name on it was terminated, and every vendor who billed my card had been notified. That she and her fiancé were free to rebook anything they wanted, just not with my money. Silence. Then, finally, she lost it. She called me selfish, a traitor, said I was ruining her life. She actually said those words. I let her talk, didn't interrupt. When she was done, I said, this wasn't revenge. This was me drawing a line after years of pretending it didn't matter when they stepped over it. She said I was pathetic for doing it right before the wedding, that no one would have time to fix anything, that people were flying in, that this was a disaster. I told her to try fixing it, then. Try rebooking a venue with 3 days' notice. Try finding a replacement florist, a band, tables, chairs, everything. Try paying for it without rerouting the bill to the brother she likes to forget about until it's time to collect. She didn't respond. She hung up. That night, the family group chat blew up. First came Mom, then Aunt Sarah, then my cousin, the one who's always up Lindsay's ass because she thinks kissing it will get her a spot in the inner circle. They said I had humiliated her, that I was cruel, that I had no idea how much pressure Lindsay had been under, and that I should have just let it go. No one asked what had actually happened. No one asked why I was pushed so far. They just assumed I'd stay quiet. But I wasn't Henry the backup anymore. I was Henry the problem, and they hated it. I knew they wouldn't stop there, and I was right. Because what they did next. That's when things stopped being about money and turned into something uglier. The morning after the group chat meltdown, I got a call from my bank's fraud department. Someone had tried to access my account online using my security questions, twice. Both attempts failed, but the alert was enough to make my stomach flip. I changed every password I had, set up two-factor authentication, froze my credit just in case. I didn't want to believe someone from my family would actually try to get into my account, but the timing was too perfect to ignore. That same afternoon, my mailbox was stuffed with letters, not bills. Letters, printed RSVPs from Lindsay's guests, returned with notes scribbled on the backs. Most were passive-aggressive. One said, sad to see the family dysfunction play out like this. Another said, we were looking forward to celebrating with you all. Please pass along our best, if possible. The kicker? My home address had been printed on the RSVP cards as the return address. She made it look like I was the one hosting the wedding. I didn't even know until that moment. And then I checked my social media. I don't post much, but someone had tagged me in a Facebook thread, a vague status from Lindsay. Some people will always resent your happiness, even if you gave them everything. Dozens of her friends had chimed in with sympathy and emoji-stuffed comments. One wrote, you deserve better than a bitter brother, that got likes. I didn't reply, but I took screenshots of everything. 2 days before the wedding, I got a call from a blocked number. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. It was my mother. Her voice was cold. She told me that they had pulled some money together and were fixing what I broke. That a smaller venue had been booked, that Lindsay and Mark had found a local caterer who could do a limited menu, that a friend of a friend was going to DJ. Then she said this, don't come. You're not welcome. I stayed silent, not surprised, not hurt either, just done. But then she added something that made me pause. She said, you should be careful. Actions have consequences. It sounded rehearsed, like something she wanted to say since the first cancellation email went out, like they were building towards something. I wondered what they had left to take from me. That night, I found out. An old coworker messaged me, someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year. She sent me a screenshot of a new email floating around our industry's network. It was anonymous, but it had my name, my company, and detailed claims about financial misconduct. It said I had been fired from a previous job for unauthorized refunds and manipulating vendor accounts. None of it was true. It was a lie built out of just enough fact to make it stick, and it was spreading. I sat there staring at the message, feeling something between anger and disbelief. They didn't just want the wedding back, they wanted to punish me for stopping it. They had no idea what they'd started, because now it was war. And I don't play the role of the quiet brother anymore. I knew exactly who wrote that email. Lindsay wouldn't have bothered, too impulsive. My mother, maybe, but she wouldn't risk it being traced back. But Mark, her fiancé? He was in finance, detail-obsessed, calculating. He had the brains, the access, and the motive. I looked into him. His LinkedIn was pristine, so was his Instagram, vacation photos, gym selfies, long captions about discipline and grind. But a mutual connection led me to an old article, buried in a finance newsletter. Mark had been quietly let go from a firm 3 years ago after performance-related concerns. No scandal, no public mess, just moved along. I called a friend in compliance at my company, asked him to dig discreetly. He got back to me the next morning. That email? It had been sent from a burner account created the day before. The IP address traced back to a WeWork location downtown. And guess who had posted a story from that exact building that afternoon? Mark, in a mirror shirt, half unbuttoned, tagged the gym next door. Rookie mistake. I didn't say anything right away. I waited. The wedding was supposed to be the next day, last minute, patched together, probably held in a backyard or some rented hall with bad acoustics and a cash bar. But they were going through with it, or trying to. The morning of, I showed up at my parents' house. Not for drama. For proof. Dad was in the garage, stringing lights for the reception. He looked surprised to see me, but didn't say anything. Inside, the place was chaos. Dresses hanging on door frames, hair curlers plugged into every outlet, people I didn't know carrying boxes of table decor. I asked to talk to Lindsay alone. She refused. So, I pulled out my phone and played the voicemail her mother-in-law had accidentally left me the night before. A pocket dial, maybe, but it caught everything. Her voice saying, "If that idiot Henry opens his mouth, Mark's ready to bury him. He already sent that email out. No one will hire him again after this." Lindsay turned white. I asked her once, was it true? She didn't deny it. She just stared at me like she had no idea who I was anymore. Like maybe, just maybe, she realized this wasn't the same brother who used to show up and fix everything in silence. I walked outside and called my lawyer. Gave him everything, the email, the voicemail, the screenshots. Told him to file for defamation and malicious interference. Then I did one more thing, I forwarded all of it to Mark's current employer. Not anonymously. They called me back an hour later. The wedding didn't happen. Apparently, Mark's company put him on immediate leave after they got my message. His name was flagged internally. Lindsay found out in the middle of getting her makeup done and had a full meltdown in front of the entire bridal party. Half the guests were already seated in borrowed folding chairs in my parents' backyard when the announcement was made, there would be no wedding. They were postponing due to unforeseen circumstances. It was humiliating for them. I left before the crowd started to leave. They thought they were dealing with the Henry they used to know, the one who would take the hit and apologize for making things difficult. But I wasn't that Henry anymore. And this? This was far from over. 2 days after the implosion, my phone buzzed with a blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. It was Mark. His voice was calmer than I expected, no threats, just a strange, almost defeated tone. He said he respected the move, that I had played it well, and that we didn't have to escalate this, like this was chess and he was offering a draw. I didn't respond. That night, I got a message on LinkedIn from someone named Rachel. No photo, just a first name. The message read, "You don't know me, but I was engaged to Mark 3 years ago. Found your story. There's more you should know." I froze. We went back and forth a bit. Rachel told me she had almost married Mark before Lindsay. She ended it after finding out he'd taken out a loan in her name without telling her. He paid it back before she could press charges and convinced her to stay quiet, said it was a misunderstanding. She still had the emails, screenshots. She even had a photo of a forged signature he used on a lease. I asked why she was telling me now. She said she saw Lindsay's name in the background of a photo someone posted from the backyard mess of a wedding, that she recognized her from years ago. Mark had been dating her before their engagement ended, overlapped by about 6 months, apparently. That was the twist no one saw coming. Lindsay didn't steal him from someone else. She was the someone else. I called my lawyer again. We compiled everything, the email he sent about me, the fraudulent loan from his past, and now this overlapping relationship timeline. All of it pointed to a pattern. My lawyer told me what I already knew, Mark was dangerous. Not in a movie villain way, but the kind that hides behind nice clothes, expensive watches, and people like my sister who mistake control for stability. The next day, I sent a cease and desist to both him and Lindsay. Any attempt to contact me again would result in full legal action. It felt good, clean, final. And then the real surprise came. My dad showed up at my place that night. No call, no warning, just knocked on the door, holding a box of old photos. I hadn't spoken to him one-on-one in years. He never took sides, he just kept his head down and went along with whatever Mom said. We sat down at my kitchen table. He didn't say much at first, just pulled out a picture of me and Lindsay as kids, sitting on the porch, her in a tiara, me holding her plastic bouquet. He looked at it for a while, then said, "I should have stopped it a long time ago. We used you up." I didn't know what to say. He told me he had canceled his retirement party, one that Lindsay and Mom had been planning, because he didn't want to pretend everything was normal anymore. That he was done playing along. That he'd offered to help Lindsay with the wedding costs when it was first announced, but she told him, "Don't worry, Henry's got it." He said he hadn't slept right since then. He did something I never expected, he handed me a check. It wasn't everything I lost, but it was a lot more than I thought he had. He said he knew it didn't fix anything, that it wasn't about money, but he wanted to make it right, at least in the small way he still could. And for the first time in all this, I believed someone meant it. But just as I started to feel like the dust was settling, something happened that spun it all back into chaos. Lindsay disappeared. No posts, no texts, her phone off. Mark was posting cryptic stories, quotes about loyalty and betrayal. My mom started calling everyone, panicked, saying she wasn't answering the door, that she'd left a note. By the time my mother showed up at my apartment, red-eyed, clutching her phone like it might scream out answers, the group chat had already started spinning wild theories. Lindsay had left a note, but no one would tell me exactly what it said, just that it was concerning. That word again, always dancing around the edge of reality. Mom said Lindsay was gone. No one had seen her since the night before. Mark claimed he didn't know where she was, but I didn't buy that for a second. He was too composed, too performative in his worry, posting vague stories on Instagram like, "Some things aren't worth the fight. All smoke, no fire." Then I got an email. Not a message, an actual email from Lindsay. Subject, "I took what was mine." That was it. No greeting, no explanation, just the one-liner that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I called my bank. I already had extra protections in place since the last stunt, but I wanted to be sure. Everything looked untouched. It wasn't until I logged into the shared drive where I kept personal documents, old tax files, scanned birth certificates, copies of IDs, that I noticed something strange. A folder was missing, one labeled Legal, Henry. Inside that folder had been all kinds of sensitive documents, things I never thought anyone would want, my SSN scans, an old digital copy of my birth certificate, even a power of attorney form I had helped draft for a friend years ago and accidentally saved in the wrong place. I checked the logs. Someone had accessed the folder at 2:42 a.m., downloaded it, then deleted it. It hit me fast, not what she'd taken, but what she could do with it. Lindsay wasn't just running, she was setting something up. I called the police. They couldn't do much without a specific crime to report, but they took my statement. I made another call to my lawyer. He said it wasn't just identity theft I needed to worry about. If she opened accounts in my name or filed anything official pretending to be me, it could spiral quickly. While he worked on filing a fraud alert across multiple platforms, I started reaching out to every financial institution I'd ever had contact with. Most were helpful. One wasn't. An online bank I hadn't used in years said there was already an account with my name on it, opened 3 days ago. When I asked where the money had come from, they said they couldn't disclose it yet. The account was flagged and under review. I hung up and stared at the wall. She had used my name, my documents, and set something up after the cancellation. Maybe as insurance. Maybe to frame me. Maybe just to show me she could. And now she was gone. I wish I could say it ended neatly. That she was found and arrested, that the money was returned, that I came out clean and whole. But that's not how life works. The last I heard, someone matching her description boarded a flight to Costa Rica under a different name. Mark was still in town, still acting like the victim, still denying everything. But without Lindsay, he lost his leverage. My lawyer handed the entire case to investigators. They're still tracing everything. The family hasn't recovered. My mother's pretending none of it happened. My dad still checks in every week, sometimes we talk, sometimes we just sit on the phone in silence. As for me, I got most of my money back, not all, but enough. I locked down everything I could, new accounts, new passwords, even a new apartment just for a fresh start. But the biggest change? They don't call me anymore when things go wrong. And for the first time in my life, I don't feel guilty about that. Mini update. I got a call from a private number this morning. I've stopped answering those for obvious reasons, but this one left a voicemail. It was in Spanish, short, clear, estaba aquí. Ya se fue. She was here. She's gone now. No name, no number to call back. But the caller ID pinged a location somewhere outside San Jose, Costa Rica. I forwarded it to my lawyer and the investigator assigned to the case. They've been trying to freeze whatever account she opened, but she's slippery. She planned this better than any of us thought. We still don't know how much she took or what else she's done with my information, but I know one thing now, she's still moving. She's not settling down, which means she's running from something, or someone. Mark, meanwhile, got fired. I don't know if it was the fallout from the email, the background check inconsistencies, or just bad PR, but he's gone. He tried to reach out once, sent me a 2-line email, "You got what you wanted. Just remember who she really is." That was it. No apology, just a reminder that in the end, he lost too. I'm still untangling everything. Some things won't ever be fixed. But I'm not scared anymore. She thought I'd stay the person who took it all with a nod and a polite smile. Now she knows I won't. And if she ever tries to come back, I'll be ready.